Hi, I'm Dale Frakes from Apatche Revealed. I have a friend who has a Phantom 4 drone, an awesome piece of machinery, and he took this fantastic photo of a sunset. And he uploaded it to Facebook, and I said, that's a great photo, but he couldn't get the colours that he wanted, and he asked me to give him a hand. This is because I know a little bit about Photoshop, so I thought I'd run through a little tutorial for you guys of the basic elements of what I do with Lightroom before pre-production. Now, this was the original photo that he had, and this is what he came up with, this type of style. I decided this is what I could do to the photo, so I thought I'll run through what I would normally do for basic images. So the first thing I normally do is get the alignment tool, straighten up that horizon. It just makes it a little bit easier. That's out of the way. Then I can start playing with the contrast to bring more some depth into it and fields and the basic tones. Now obviously I didn't take this photo, so I didn't know what it looks like, so I just mucked around with a few highlights and lowlights to get colours out, and then moved to saturation. Then I went down to my tone curves, my real basic hard ones, just to bring out all the colours again and really make sure I can play with it. Then I used the dehaze just to give it some more depth. We all know about the smog and the film and all that, so I went with a bit of a dehaze. Then I decided to do the vignage. Now, it's a personal preference on this stuff. I thought it would work really well with this photo, so I attempted to do my first mask. Then I came on to sharpening. Now, rules of thumbs is about 60% sharpening and 40% mask. Then you can just play with the noise reduction and everything, and the illumination and the color contrast, just to bring it a nice smoothness effect. Now, with the color, up to you. Totally whatever you want to do. As I said again, I didn't take this photo, I didn't see what's going on, so I slowed the bar up to find out what colours are in there, and then I worked it a little bit by bit to find out, okay, this bit looks better this way, there's a bit more colour in there, and just played around a little bit just to bring out as much details as I can. Now obviously you can't do two images at once like the sky and do the ground and expect to get an even colour what you want to match. So there's this brush tool which you use. It's got a couple of selections on it, so I just brushed out the whole ground there, and just so I can focus on changing the contrast, the highlights, the sharpness and everything of just the ground. So when I went into there, I brushed it out a bit, as you can see. I used a big brush to start. Now I'm just highlighting the parts where I want to still focus on. It's between the clouds and the sky and the obviously ground. As you can see, it moves around. It's only focusing on the ground. Now obviously a little bit more saturation, a little bit more contrast, sharpening, just playing around just to give it a few details, trying to bring out as much of the image as possible without losing the spectacular wow factor about it. So that's pretty much all I did, was just muck around here a bit, worked out where to go, what I'm looking at, what I really want to concentrate on. Obviously the exposure, the contrast again, as such. Now I was zoomed in a few times just to make sure that nothing's clogging up and I'm not getting a stuck bit of colour into my images. Because obviously if you go overboard a little bit, you start getting the images, they start becoming really rough and the colours are looking terrible because you're just trying to push them too far. So obviously play around. Now I'm playing with the tones a bit. I went back to check to make sure I haven't changed too much from the original image. And that's pretty much what I came up to with just the ground. Now, see, I went back a little bit. I'm probably just checking to make sure I'm not going too far away from my original image. So that brought. Now I started on the clouds a little bit because I wanted to bring them out now. Because you've got a couple of brush tool settings, so you can set A to do the ground, you set B to do the sky highlights, whatever you like, just so you can focus on some key points of the image. Now that gives you a bit more control over your whole concept of your photo, so you're not just trying to get all the colours working at once with just one slider bar. the brush tool allows you to work on those similar little images and similar little type parts that you want. Obviously I zoom in to make sure I'm not pushing the colours up too much and gives you this really noisy effect. I can't stress how much you go and change it a few times and it's really stressful. So that's why I went back and moved around my sharpening tool again and my illumination noise reduction tool. Played around with the vineyards again. And then I think I went to do here I'm just mucking around with the colour because I had this little green spot which caused me a bit of trouble there, so I needed to clean it up a bit and lower the density of it a bit. Now I used a grid thing just to give that colour in the sky where the blue and the orange meet. I wanted to really push it out a bit more where I could work on the parts. And you just bring down this gradient tool, so it's just not one colour straight over. It fades down the little gradient. The grid like that. So I just mucked around a few colours here, made sure I wasn't pushing the colours out again, going back and forth just to check. Obviously, that little green was still annoying me. So I changed the settings, just go back down. You just keep going over and over your process, make sure you're checking your images. This was a 30-minute image that I created. Obviously I've sped it up a little bit, but you could spend hours on this image and it'll be perfect and good. But this is just a tutorial of the basic startup of what I normally do to make sure everything's fine before I go into pre-production on Photoshop. Now I moved into Photoshop and I was having a bit of problem with trying to get the green out of here. The sky was working perfectly, but the green I just couldn't work on the little islands that are around here on the surface. So instead of trying to push all these colours out and make it distorted and just look like it's really forced, thought why not just Photoshop the colours of green? Just a little trick. It's a little. And you're not pulling your hair out as much as possible, trying to get this colour out, where you just get a little green in there and play around on your layers, just finding a filter that works and the layer. Then you can change the curves and the colours in Photoshop as it is, because obviously you want to get a few things that you couldn't do in Lightroom. I just bring it over to Photoshop and make sure it all smooths out and fits, because you don't want a lot of green. You just want just a little tease of the green in the shadows, so you know, oh hey, that is a green island out there. That's really nice. It's luscious. It's beautiful. So, and that's all I did. Just a little tiny green in that. And because I went really bad and painted all over it, now I'm just deleting a little bit more just to give it like brush leaves and everything. Now I turned into my curves just to bring out the colours and hide them as much as possible, but still show that little tint of green there. Now there is this part in the water. I've always tried, I don't know how, but I've always found that when you want something nice and smooth but you want everything sharp around it, over sharpen a little bit in Lightroom, then you can bring it over here into Photoshop and you can use the smooth tool in Photoshop to just smooth out the water, and it'll just make it nice and smooth and looks like crystal glass, just like it's just smooth. It's completely smooth, and that's instead of trying to force it and trying to get your real sharpness in the ground and everything and tough. You just want a nice smooth thing. Now that was the finished image that I've got. Well guys, that's the basics of what I do in Lightroom to start off an image. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe to my channel and have a great day. Thank you.